US. On behalf of APARI, who is implementing the project, and on behalf of USDA, which is one of our important sponsors of the project in Bangladesh, and on behalf of STDF, who is sponsoring the project for countries in Southeast Asia and South Asia countries, including Bangladesh again, and on behalf of our technical team, Ag Align Global, and also on behalf of Director General, Bangladesh Agriculture Research Institution, who are actually hosting the field training part of it, and even the lab training. And on behalf of all the people who are actually engaged in organizing this, I have a great pleasure to welcome all the participants from Bangladesh, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, and Thailand. Now, we had a series of meetings with USDA, with AgAlign Global, our technical team, with Bangladesh team, BARI, with Department of Agriculture Extension, and with you from all the countries, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, and Thailand, with your study team, your team players. It was a number of meetings which led us to plan this virtual training program, which will be mainly the field training and residue decline today. So it was not an easy job, as we had the COVID situation, you all know, but we are very happy that we are seeing the light of the day. Without giving much of the opening remarks or welcoming you all, I would like to invite Jason, who has been the technical lead, who has actually driven the technical part with his very efficient team. And today you are going to listen to one of them, Dr. Grace Langan. She'll be making all the presentations. I would like Dr. Jason Sandel from AgAlign Global to give his overview and some remarks. Thank you one and all for participating. Thank you so much. Jason, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi. I just want to say that this is a really milestone for us, because a lot has gone into the planning of getting these field decline studies and the bioefficacy studies underway. A lot of effort's gone into it, and I know that you all have been very, very patient as we've been trying to gather our team together, pick up the pieces, try to figure everything out, and move everything forward. It hasn't been easy, I'll admit that, but I think that with all the hard work from everybody here, especially our technical team and the technical team on your side, answering all the questions to Grace and Wayne and Kevin and Luis to help us, get this underway. I really, really appreciate that, and we couldn't have gone this far, without all the support we've had to date. So I'm not going to take a lot of time. I just know that I just want to let you know that I've been looking forward to this event for such a long time, because this really means we're beginning finally. And as Dr. Ravi said, things are opening up, things are looking better, and I think this is like a perfect timing for us to get this started. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm also going to be watching very intently of Dr. Grace's presentation. She's done a great job putting it all together. And I'm really hoping that if you have some questions, you use this opportunity, seize the opportunity now to answer or to ask all the questions that you have, so that Dr. Grace can answer them as best as she can. And then she'll be following up with each of the countries individually from here to actually get the trial started in your country just prior to initiating them. So I'm going to stop. And I want to say thank you to all of the APARI team, Sasi, Ravi, everybody else, the team at FAS to help us underway, and the technical team once more, and then again, the participants. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to, I think it's Grace now. Is that correct, Ravi? Or
yes.
Are we?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
It's going to be me. I'm going to see if
Good luck, Grace.
I can share this. Thank you. I'm going to share the screen. Please tell me if you can see it.
Yes, it looks great.
Okay. Give me a second because now I lost my presentation screen. You guys still see it?
Yes, we still see
Yes.
it.
Okay, perfect. So, so I think many of you have already met me in our introductory meetings. My name is Grace Lennon, in case somebody is on here that does not know me. My name is Grace Lennon. I'm the study director who has planned this study by creating the protocols for all of you, and we'll be monitoring the residue decline phase of the residue mitigation study. I wanted to represent the countries on this slide by the crop chosen for your study. So Malaysia and Thailand, you are doing chili pepper. Bangladesh is doing cabbage, and Cambodia and Laos are doing basil. So first thing I want to do is go over the study plan synopsis. And there are two phases to this residue mitigation study. The first phase is the field residue decline study, and this is the one that I'm going to be concentrating on today. And the residue, okay, so phase one, what will phase one help us determine? It will help us determine the conventional pesticide that we're going to employ in phase two. The way it will be determined is by the results of the residue decline study. The pesticide with the highest residues or the longest time, the longest duration of the residue will be the one that is mitigated. And we'll work with the country to see which one they actually would like to use once we get the results back from the residue decline study. We will also determine where the residues decline to a level that meets trade MRLs. Phase two, this is the part of the study where the last application of the chosen pesticide from phase one is replaced by a biopesticide. So for instance, if you have a pesticide that has 3 applications, the first 2 will be sprayed with a conventional pesticide, and the last application, and that's the one that usually drives the residue, will be replaced by a biopesticide. So in the decline study, we're going to have 1 control and 1 treated plot. And the control is the plot that no studied test chemical will be applied. And the treated plot is where the studied test chemical will be applied. The application, everyone who is in this group meeting will be using a 2 to 3 conventional pesticide in their study. There are some countries who are only using 1 conventional pesticide, so they will be applying their pesticide according to the label rate. But with your studies, because you're using 2 to 3 conventional pesticides, they'll be applied as a tank mix, and that will be on the day of the first harvest, which is the 0-day PHI, and PHI means pre-harvest interval. So how many time points? We're going to talk about sampling now. How many time points will the decline study have? How is this determined? Well, the decline points are selected around the PHI listed on the pesticide label. And you have all been sent an email requesting the label information. And one of the most important things that we needed to know is the PHI. Obtaining the PHI will help with the planning of the application and the sampling time points. Thanks to all of you who have already provided that information. And if you have not, please provide this information as soon as possible. It will help me help you plan your study. So if you have a tank mix with 3 ingredients or 3 pesticides, and you have told me that the PHI is 5 days for one, 7 for the other, and 14, I will then take those time points, and usually in a decline study, you want to have 2 or 3 points before your PHI and 2 or 3 after. So here I would have selected the 0 time point, the 3-day, the 5, 7, 14. So I'm including those PHIs in that tank mix. And then we extend it to 21 to 28 days. And one thing to consider when you're reviewing your protocol, check to see if that last time point, I'm not an expert on the crop that you're growing, so I'm throwing out that number. But if you think, I don't know if my crop will stay till 28 days in the field and have marketable, a crop, then tell me and we can adjust that. Okay. So here was the email that Sasi sent, and Jason put this table together. And this is the one that we were asking you to fill out. So please, if you haven't done that, then it would be great if you could fill it out. Here, I don't know if you can see this, but we got this really good.
Hello, Grace. Could you please unmute yourself? If you... Hello, Grace. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please go.
Oh, was I muted? Somebody muted me.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
I can hardly hear you. I'm sorry, Sasi.
Please go ahead, Grace. Sorry for this technical trouble. Please go ahead.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Yes.
Okay, and everybody can see the screen?
Yes.
The last screen I am on, I'm talking about the table that we sent for the information on the label of your pesticides. So yes, again, please, if you are able to send that to me as soon as possible, that would be great. Okay, so we normally, residue trials would be run according to GLP. Because this particular study will not be reported to an agency, we can do a GLP-like study. And I'll give you an idea of why we are doing a GLP-like study. What is different on GLP between GLP and GLP-like? We will not be using a test substance that is GLP certified and comes with a certificate of analysis. It won't be procured from the registrant company who produces the test substance formulation. Instead, we will be asking you to purchase your test substance that you're going to use in the study from a local farmer. I'm sorry, a local farmer ag facility, and similar to what a farmer would purchase in your area. So we would like you to use what a typical farmer would use. There's also not going to be an official quality assurance inspection. We won't be asking for audits and quality assurance compliance statement at the end. However, since I won't be able to attend the critical phases, I'm asking that quality assurance team to be independent reviewers. So we still will have someone overseeing the critical phases, and those critical phases would be like an application, a calibration, sample collection. We just want somebody to be there to say, yes, it's being followed, the protocol is being followed. And I'm going to ask that independent reviewer to help me review the data, but also give me a report of what they had seen in the field and be another set of eyes for me. The study will be even better with more people looking at the research going on. So that's what's different in the study from GLP to GLP-like. Now, we still will be doing many things GLP-wise. There's going to still be a well-planned study with a protocol and a field data notebook. There's a detailed study plan with step-by-step information. I'm going to ask you to do proper documentation. That's why I will be providing you a field data notebook. We'll make accurate application calibrations and spray procedures. I'll ask you to follow to a T the sampling procedure in the field, and also we'll document and have proper shipping procedures employed from the field to the lab. So protocol and field data notebook. There are two important documents that you'll be going to familiarize yourself with and read and use throughout the study, and they are the protocol and the field data notebook. The protocol describes what you are going to do and step-by-step guide. The field data notebook is where you will be recording your data, reporting on what you have done. During the course of the trial, you'll need to enter all your information on what you did in the field data notebook. This information should be prompt and legible, and you should do it as soon as possible because it's a lot easier to record that data instead of trying to remember what you did when you sit down at your desk. Sometimes errors occur, and if they do, then you just draw a single line through that entry and write the corrected information in like underneath or beside that entry. Make sure it's legible. Here's where it's being written, and then he sees, oh, I did something wrong. He crosses it out. He'll write the correct information. He'll initial and date it and put an entry code next to it, which the code is like an entry error. You will put EE, or a calculation error, you'll have CE. And those codes, you can find them in the front of the field data notebook. Always use pen and not pencil. Pen is a permanent marking, a permanent entry. It's important not to erase or write over or block out or use whiteout or any type of correction fluid. Planning is very important. I just want to give you that little bit of advice. It's always good to practice. It's an always good practice to plan ahead. A few weeks ahead, sometimes errors do occur. If one does occur, please let me know as soon as possible by emailing me or calling me. If this error is a deviation from the protocol, it's important to record that. You will be seeing this page I have included in the field data notebook, and that will guide you through recording what your deviation was, and then I will take that information and decide whether there's an impact on the study. Hopefully nobody ever has to use that document. All right, so test substance purchase and handling. As I've already said, this is not a GLP study. The test substance will be purchased from a local agricultural store or market. After purchasing the test substance, read the label and make sure you look at the storage conditions. It's important to follow those directions, and so place the chemical in the type of environment that they're asking you to. They're sometimes very specific, sometimes they just say ambient, but try and adhere to that, that instruction. Monitor the temperature from the day of receipt until the final application in the study. And this can be done by simply using a min-max thermometer or a data logger. So I just gave you a little taste of the field data notebook, what I'll be asking for. You'll want to record the name of the test substance on the container label, and this will be filled out for each test substance that you're using. The batch lot number, if there's one on the container, the date of purchase, most importantly, the test substance expiration date. We do not want to use a test substance that has expired. So check that before you buy. The establishment where you purchased it, how much you purchased, the number of containers, and give a description of what type of container that test substance was in. You'll also have, there'll also be a use log, a test substance use log that you'll fill out. You'll tell me when you removed this. It should be the day that you're using it. So if I see this in the test substance use log that it says that you removed it on 2/1, and then I go to the application and I see that you applied on 2/4, don't remove the test substance until you're ready to use it. You know, even if it's put in another container, don't do that until the day that you're ready to use it. So remove the date removed, the amount you removed, and the purpose. So you'll be saying that you used it for this study, and then initial and date. We just want to make sure that we have accountability of the test substance that we're using. So another important thing for us is the directions to the field. One of the first pages in this section, we ask you to give a broad map of where your test site is, and that would be, you can give us the information from like a MapQuest or something, like print that out, and we ask you to show us where, to give us the directions from the nearest town or city. And then the next one, we also ask you to provide general directions to the test site, test plot from the entrance of the test site. And we'll be providing a map, like a template in the field data notebook. And this is what the diagram looks like. I hope you can see that. If you can't, I can, you know, kind of walk you through it. Here's the farm entrance where you are going to then measure where the farm entrance is. You don't have, you know, you can just give an approximate, and then give us an, also a distance from where your sites are. Okay, and so it says here, this is very interesting. It says that this is a broccoli field, and they're spraying a test substance similar to what you're spraying on your test site, your test plot. And so this was sprayed this in the same year, so there could be possible contamination. So be careful on what is being sprayed around your test plot. We also are asking for the north direction, the prevailing wind, and if there's an irrigation source on at the field site, to indicate that, as well as a weather station. But if they're on the field, at the field site, is why we're asking. Plot design. So I had said earlier that there's one control and one treat it. Make sure when you are choosing your plot that it's in a field that practices good local agricultural practices, you know, by spraying fertilizer, treating for pests, irrigating, just all the practices that they need to ensure a commercially acceptable crop. The untreated plot, as you see, is smaller than the treated, and that's because there's only one sample that will be collected from the untreated plot, and that will be used in the laboratory for their fortification procedure that they do. And the treated plot is much larger, and that's because it has to accommodate for 2 samples collected for each time point, and there's approximately 5 to 7 time points that will be collected. And the difference of 5 to 7 depends on the length of the time the crop is viable. You need to employ adequate buffer zones between each treatment. You don't want contamination in the control plot. That drives the lab crazy. Me too, when I have to look at the results. A minimum distance of 5 meters is stated in the protocol, but a minimum of 15 is strongly preferred. We want to make sure that the treated plot can ensure that no more than 50% of the harvestable crop is collected. And as I stated earlier, it's important to check out your test site, your field that you're going to put it in. Ask the farmer about the prior pesticide history. You don't want to put it in a field where they had just sprayed their last crop with your pesticides. So check for that, because there could be contamination from the crop before you. Also, I mentioned about the adjacent areas. Check with the farmer to see if anybody's spraying your test substance formulations during the duration of your study. There should be no similar chemistries that could contaminate the test plots through spray drift. We're going to talk now about the plot plans. Here, this will be provided as a template as well, so you can, replicate this when you draw your plot plan in the field data notebook. You're going to indicate the dimensions and the locations of the treated and untreated plots, the dimensions and location of the buffer zones. Permanent landmarks. What you want to do is pick something that's going to be not able to be moved. That permanent landmark should be something like, I don't know, a tree or a building, and you want to get the distance between that permanent landmark and at least 2 of your plot corners. The reason is, if you have flags or stakes in your plot corners to indicate where your plot is and somebody drives a tractor over them, you want to be able to, find those plot corners again from what you have recorded from those permanent landmarks. And then you also want to indicate the north direction, the slope direction with an arrow pointing downslope. You don't want the control plot downslope from the treated plot, in case there's a lot of rain and the residues can go down towards the control plot. Also, you want to indicate the number of rows or beds and their direction. Mark the plots with identifiable markers, just as I said, with stakes in the corners or flags, and have a sign that says study number and treatment number. Your treatment number for the treated plot is 02, and the number for the untreated is 01. You want to make sure you know which one's the control plot and which one's the treated plot. And they should stay in that, those plots, that identifiable marker should stay for the duration of the field trial. Here's something very important. You should really secure your test plots from the growers' fields. I can't tell you how many trials I had lost when somebody mowed the clover field where one of my field researchers had their clover, and they just mowed right through, and we lost that trial. So be sure to have some kind of caution tape, some signs that say do not enter, do not harvest. It's important. We don't want somebody harvesting our crop. Saucy, how am I doing on time?
Grace, please continue. I think we are on time.
Okay. All right, so calibrations and application procedures. You all have received your supply list. And so for the calibration and application procedure, you will need a boom sprayer with some type of propellant like a CO2 or a battery charged or gasoline charged boom sprayer, or even a manual pump sprayer, and a metronome that will help keep your pace in the field. When you do your walking speed, it's important to have your walking speed down to put the test substance solution properly on the plot. The metronome that you will use, I saw that many said that they did not have it. If you have a smartphone, there's an app for one. I just wanted to let you know that. Environmental monitor, this is really important, especially for wind speed and the direction of the wind. The reason is when you're spraying, you want to make sure the wind speed isn't too high. A rain gauge. What we're trying to do here is show that there wasn't much rain when you applied. What I'm asking is the rain gauge in the field. That's most important. You know, if there was rain after your application, we want to see how much and how soon that happened. You don't want to spray, have it rain, and then, you know, have the test substance wash off. There's usually like a rain fast of an hour that you want to make sure that the test substance has dried before a rain event. We also need pH test strips. That's to test the water or a carrier that you're using to put the test substance into solution. Graduated cylinders, beakers, and pipettes, that's for mixing the test substance solution, or you can use that for your calibration. And water jugs to bring water out to the field. The boom sprayer calibration. Here's where you'll find the important information for test substance in section 12 of the protocol and section 14.1. It'll list the formulation target concentration rate on that table and the spray volume range. First thing, important thing to do with your spray system is to check for leaks and any nozzle spray pattern that is irregular. Add water to your system, pressurize it, and spray, and check to see if there's any leaks. And then, you know, you need to have your boom working properly before you can do a calibration. So the second step would be determine sprayer discharge rate. You set the pressure and charge the system just like you did to check the system itself. And then you collect output from each nozzle by putting some containers underneath, and you collect it for at least 30 seconds. This next slide, it's a little light in the written part, but I'll let you know what's in those circles. You determine the sprayer discharge rate, and you take the total output. You have to run the calibration 3 times, and you calculate the average. You take that total average output, which is here, and you divide the average time to get the boom discharge rate, which is mils per second. And a proper calibration consists of a minimum of 3 consecutive documented checks. That's important. Mark the plot and determine the plot size. You've already marked the plot, and now you need to know how the area of that plot. And as everyone knows, it's length times width, and you take that plot size, square meters, divide by 10,000 square meters per hectare, and that will give you the plot size in hectares. Now you can calculate the amount of water and test substance to use for your plot. Water, you take the plot size that we just determined and you times it by the target liters per hectare in the protocol where I just showed you, right there. And that's where you get the liters per plot, and the test substance would be the formulation target concentration rate that was on that chart as well, and the amount of water per plot. It's very important to prepare 20 to 25% extra when you make a spray. You don't want to run out of spray, and this 20 to 25% extra is called overage. When you calculate the amount of water, and if you say, okay, I have 1.5 liters, but I want to make it to 2 liters per plot overage, I'm going to bring it up to 2 liters. You have to do the same thing to the test substance. You have to do it proportional to the amount of water that you are using to do the overage. That's important to keep in mind. Now you need to determine the time in the plot that you need in order to deliver the test substance solution properly to your test plot. The target amount water per plot, so that would be what we just determined in the last slide, and the boom discharge will give you the time per plot. And so if you have 11,128 mils per plot, you divide that by 80.25 mils per second. That was your discharge, and you have 138.67 seconds that you need to cover to spray the plot. If you have 4 passes, you have to divide that time by 4 to get your seconds per pass. If you notice that it's uncomfortable to walk because you're walking too slowly or you're walking too fast, change your nozzle size or your sprayer pressure and recalibrate to make that walk comfortable. I can't drive this to, I can't state this anymore, but practicing your past times is very important. Collecting actual past time data is very, very critical. So your walking speed calibration, this is what you do. You practice the pace. You must use terrain similar to your plot terrain. You can't test your practice pace on a flat, smooth surface and then go in the plot with all these ruts and think you're going to have the same walking speed. It's going to slow you down, so you have to make sure your terrain is similar to what your plot terrain is. You then measure your distance and you walk that plot length. You take the distance and you divide that by the seconds per plot, and that gives you how many meters per second you are to walk. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Grace. So we do have a question in the chat box. Maybe I'll read that out for you. And I think Cambodia team also has Thailand team also has a question. If you permit me, I'll read out the question for you. So this is from Satya K from Cambodia. Is there any replication needed? It would be 3 to 5 replicates to get good results. The dose of each pesticide, the calibration volume is needed for the size are also important. So that is, it is also more of a comment. The test of a pesticide formulation is extremely important. The spraying technique, the water for dilution. So yeah, please your reflection on this. Is there any replication needed?
I'm sorry, I'm not following the question. Is there a way that you can show?
Yeah, do we need
Let me
a
go to
replication?
the, here, who, I'm sorry, who is asking that?
Satya K.
I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read that. Okay, is there any? To get good results, diversity each pesticide. Is there any replication needed for?
Well, maybe we can let Satya K speak. Dr. Satya, would you like to elaborate your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just like to clarify that normally, you know, when we spray chemical to the plant, to the crops, we would have many replication, you know. If we don't have a replication, our result is not so good, especially if we want to, you know, publish the paper. And last 15 years ago, when I was student in Korea, my replication of the crops would be at least 4 to 5 replicate.
Oh, you're talking about 3 to 5 applications?
Replication, no, replication of the pesticide that you spray to the crops. For example, you spray basil, so you plot layout, you put only control in one side and pesticide in one side. I'm not so clear about that.
Oh, so this is just a residue decline study that I am proposing that will be done for phase 1. So we're just spraying the pesticide and then taking samples over a number of time points. We're not trying to spray to keep the pests down. We're running this study to take residues. So we'll be sending those samples to the lab, and they're going to show us where the residues decline over that you know, period of time. It's what we're trying to do is get a time point on when we see one of those pesticides in the tank mix. If it is high and then it drops off, then Kevin Rice will take that information and use that for phase 2 on when he needs to use his biopesticide. So we're doing like a research data. We're doing a research study to give him information on what pesticide is going to be used and when he can apply his biopesticide for phase 2. I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you, Grace. Dr. Satya, I hope you got the answers for the question. And I think we also have a question from Dr. Prachatipat from Thailand team. Dr. Prachatipat, if you can unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hi, Grace.
Hello.
I just reviewed the protocol of Thailand, and it's mentioned that the test substance is profenophos, but I think it's a type error because I just checked with the recommendation from our department. I think it's a prothiophos. Is it okay to change from the profenophos to prothiophos in the protocol?
Is that test substance formulation registered in Thailand?
Yes.
Okay. Have you sent your review in?
No,
I can't remember.
I didn't send the review back to you yet, but
Okay.
another question is if you want to do the tank mix, is it possible to add another test substance? Because This another one is really have a big problem for the export commodity of chili.
We're really trying to keep it down to like 3. It's going to be a lot more time in the field to do the
So
mixing and a lot more time in the laboratory. Are you asking to have 4
No, 3.
active? Oh, yeah. Just, you know what? We can work that out through some emails. If you want to give me my, send the protocol with your changes or your questions, I will definitely work with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prachatipat. We would like to invite questions from all study teams. If you have any questions, please do raise your hand or add in the chat box, and we will let you ask your questions to Dr. Grace. We have, I think, 10 more minutes for the question and answer session. So yeah, I know Dr. Grace has been sending you protocols and supply lists. So whatever doubts, she also had some questions for you. And if you need any clarifications, this is the time for you to ask Dr. Grace.
Does everybody understand? Does everybody understand the study plan and what the why we're doing the residue study first and then the biopesticide portion later, and why the residue study is important? Did I explain that well enough? Any questions there?
Dr. Prachatipat, yes, please.
For in the protocol, in Thailand, we use the neem ban. Is it we have to buy it from the seller, not do extract by ourselves. We use the commercial one, right?
I would think you can use the commercial one. If you would like, you can put that in your protocol review and send me those questions, and Dr. Kevin Rice and he's our entomologist expert. He can get back to you on that question. I think he has been saying that. Are you asking if you can use a commercial one? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
This is the same as the neem extract. This is a neem ban is a neem oil.
Yeah, can you allow me to ask Kevin tomorrow? Okay. I'll send him an email and we'll get back to you. Okay, Sasi, can you, you're welcome. Sasi, can you write me a reminder, please? Okay. Or send me, thank you.
Okay, I will send you an email.
Okay, that's perfect. Yes, and then I'll forward it to Kevin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prachatipat. So Bangladesh team, Laos team, Malaysia team, do you have any questions to Dr. Grace? Before we go into break, I think we still have some time to address your questions. You can please raise your hands.
What I can do in this portion, I can tell them about the individual training that I'm planning to have, sure. Right before everyone is going to start their study. This weekend, Bangladesh is starting their cabbage study, and I plan to meet with them and go have a PowerPoint again. And what I will be doing is I will take parts of the protocol and parts of the field data notebook and compare them side by side because they do go hand in hand. and I will, step by step, I'll ask them if they want to try and calibrate, their sprayer, just as a test calibration. I'll go over the sampling of your particular crop because the chili pepper is harvested different than the cabbage and the basil. So I can't cover that today because I'm trying to do a general presentation, but I will be able to go over the parts of your study in depth. So, read the protocol, look at the field data notebook, because that will be a good time for us to go over specific questions for your study. And yeah, so I think that will be a very good session for us to have. And I hope to help you with this particular residue, research phase of your study. So if you have any questions, definitely read the protocol, look over the field data notebook, and have your questions ready for me for that individual training.
Thank you, Grace, for this update.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so final call for the questions, or we can have a break and then we can continue our discussions and presentations after the break. So participants, you can also unmute yourself if you have any questions to Dr. Grace on the training or the field study. So we'll wait for 1 more minute for the questions to come, and then we can, if no more questions, then we'll have the break.
Grace, I want to say something from Bangladesh. This is Dr. Mohammed Delawar Hossain Pradhan. Shashi,
Hello.
can you hear
Please
me?
go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, I would like to thank you for your nice and excellent presentation. And really, you have covered all the things for the field experimentation. So first of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to you. I have a simple query to you. You have mentioned that the sampling interval, it means we will collect the sample after the pesticide application of 0357, 14, 21, and 28. I think at the end of the sampling, the duration is much higher because when we are working in the field, we say sometimes we are observing that the residue declining very fast. And that's why if we collect the sample, say for example, 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, 15, 21, 25, or 28, I think the study will be much more precise. What is your opinion? Thank you.
I am willing to work with you on what time points you would like. The protocol is not set in stone. I really welcome any question you may have or any change that you would like to make within reason. Now, I'd have to check with the lab to see if they can accommodate all those samples. There is a budget, so as a researcher, I say sure, but we have to check, to see if the samples are going to cost too much money to analyze. But I definitely can talk with you more about that, and I can check with Jason and Dr. Ravi if that's okay to expand that time point. Sure. But I think we need someone, someone else to say that it's okay, not just me. But I do agree, that's really a good point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for all the study teams. Grace, I think we do not have any more questions at this stage. We can continue.
All right, then.
for the break, and then we can get back.
There we go. Time for break. Thank you, Sasi.
Yeah, so we will get back after 10 minutes.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Participants,
Thank you.
please
Thank you.
stay logged in and do not leave the Zoom. We will continue in the same Zoom, so please do not exit the Zoom. We'll just have a break for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Sasi. So we have mixing, test substance solution, application, sample collection, and shipping left. So hang in there, everybody. It's almost over. So mixing and application. What to wear for your protection: a long sleeve shirt, a spray suit, socks, shoes, goggles, respirator if you have one, and a chemical resistant glove. You want to make sure that you are fully protected when you are mixing your chemicals. Before the application is sprayed, collect the control plot, the control sample first. It's very important. You don't want to touch the test substance or use it in any way before you go into the control field. If you want to collect the control sample the day before, that's just as fine. But always make sure that it is collected before you ever handle the test substance. And I'll go over the sampling procedures in the next section. Before starting the application, be sure there is nothing blocking your path as you move down the plot. This cracks me up. I know the guy who's holding that, so that's why it makes me laugh. Check the wind speed. So remember I had said about using an environmental monitor to check the wind speed. You don't want to spray if the wind is faster than 15 kilometers per hour. You want the test substance to go on the crop and not in the next field. So just be careful and make sure that the wind is not too fast. Collect weather data consisting of air temperature, rain accumulation, humidity, cloud cover, and this all gets reported and recorded in the field data notebook. There is specific area in the notebook where you can record this. Preparing the tank mix. You're going to do water, test substance, water. Okay, so first measure out the test substance with the amount of water that you need to apply the test substance. Add half the amount of the water to the empty tank. Add the test substances to the tank one at a time. If you're using some type of measuring vessel to measure the test substance in, you're going to take a small amount of water of the remaining measured water and rinse those vessels. If it's a syringe, rinse the syringe 2 to 3 times. Make sure it is completely emptied of the test substance. So then you rinse until clean, like I said, and you add the remaining measured water to the tank. Cover the tank gently. I'm sorry, cover the tank, not gently. Cover the tank and gently mix the test substance with the water. I'm getting tired. Application. Okay. Apply the test substance to the test crop within 2 hours of mixing. You don't want it to sit any longer than that. It can come out of solution. So that's why you want to keep it agitated before application and during the application. A lot of times walking down the plot will agitate the tank, but just make sure that it is fully agitated throughout the process. You could go down the row and spray, and then at the end, do a shake like Bill there, and go down the next row. There should be 2 people who are present for the application. I've seen someone spray and time at the same time. it's like one of those bands where they have all those, you know, the cymbal and the drum and, you know, the harmonica. I don't recommend it. Have two people there, one who is going to make the application and the other one to spray and record the pastimes in the field data notebook. And it's very important, I'm saying this right now, record those pastimes as they, you know, as they're done, because you don't want to have to remember what they were. Fully pressurize the tank, apply the spray solution uniformly. Before you go into the plot, I would do that somewhere away from the plot, like Bill is doing right here. You know, check to see what the spray pattern is and if you're going to be covering that row. When one person is spraying, another one can keep track of the time with a stopwatch. As I said, record each pastime in the field data notebook as it occurs. Keep the boom, oh, that's important, to keep it raised at a consistent height. If you ever have sprayed, you know that when you put the boom down lower, the spray pattern changes. So make sure it is at a consistent height when moving through the plot. You have to wait 1 hour to be sure that the test substance solution is dry on the crop before collecting the treated sample. You don't want to go in there before that because it will come off and come on your clothes and the residues won't be reflective of what you sprayed. Okay, sample collection. Supplies. You had seen this on your list as well, disposable gloves, sampling bags. Now, let's talk about sampling bags. I have always had cloth bags with a plastic liner with ties at the top, and, you know, I'm not sure if we all can get those bags. I talked to a friend of mine who is also a field study director, and he had said if you have thick plastic bags, they will be okay. Our suggestion would be to, you know, put the sample in there, put the label on the plastic bag if you're using plastic bags, and then double bag it. So if that label, you know, sometimes labels don't stick on the plastic bags. So if you double bag it, then if that label does come off of that inner bag, it will be, you know, in between the two bags. It's very important to be able to keep those labels on the bag, because when they get to the lab, they have to know what's in that bag. And so you'll need a cooler or an ice chest with blue ice or dry ice. Not dry ice, no. I don't know why I put that in there. Blue ice or wet ice is perfectly fine in the field. The way I wouldn't do like wet ice and just throw it in the cooler. I have seen this and it works really great. You take liter bottles, like 2-liter bottles, and you put water in them and you freeze them overnight. And that's kind of like a blue ice then, you know, so it doesn't get messy. So yeah, I would use something like that to cool down your samples when you take them from the field. And then a chest freezer, if there's one at the facility. Now, many of you are saying that you're going to take the samples right to the lab. So you won't need a chest freezer if that's the case. And shipping boxes with dry ice. And this is only if you're shipping to a lab. If you're driving to a lab, then don't even worry about shipping boxes. Okay, so disposable gloves should be worn. Don't use the same gloves that you used for the application. They'll have contamination on them. So change the gloves between samples and use different ones from the ones that you used to mix the test chemical or spray. And I've already said, place them in plastic lined cloth bags, but if you don't have them and you have good plastic bags, then you can use the procedure that I just explained. We're collecting one untreated control sample before the application. As I said before, either the day before or immediately before the application is when you should be taking that control sample. 2 treated samples per sampling interval. When sampling, as I said earlier, when sampling the day 0 sample, it has to be dried before you can go into that plot and avoid any diseased or damaged plants. The intervals will vary between studies, crops, and PHIs. If your PHI is 14 days, there'll be, like I said, 3 time points before and 3 time points after. That will depend on how long the crop can stay viable and marketable in the field. You can ask for more time points because you may know your test chemical, like Dr. Hassan Allah had asked. And so, you know, I'm allowing you, when you get the protocol, you can request changes, and then I'll run it by the study team and see if it's okay. So please give me some feedback on those protocols. So each sample should be representative of the entire plot, except the plot ends. We're going to try and avoid those plot ends because when you start the sprayer, sometimes it spits or spurts, or you don't start it in time, and then, you know, it's always more consistent in the middle of the plot. So we're going to try and avoid those plot ends. And a lot of times we ask that you avoid the last rows in your plot. But what I would tell you is to avoid the outer part of your last rows when you're sampling. You're going to collect the samples from the middle rows, and like I just said, try to avoid those outer edges of the plot. Each sample should be a separate pass, so you will, for the treated sample, you will take one bag and go in and do as Bill is doing here. He is taking fruit from both sides of the row. He is going in and high and low areas. He's reaching in and taking the sheltered fruit, and then he's picking from the top the fruit that was exposed. He's doing one thing wrong here, and I'll let you know what he's doing wrong in the next slide. So you see, Bill is the best way to collect. Be sure residues can get picked up by the bag. You know, you want to protect that residue sample bag. So what Bill has is another plastic bag around the sample bag. And I've seen somebody use, which I thought was good, a big 5-gallon bucket and walk down the row with the sample bag in that bucket. And you can see here, he's letting it touch the crop, and he hasn't hit the ground, but he is letting it touch the foliage. But here he's protecting it. When you're sampling, if any debris or loose soil adheres to the fruit, you can just brush it off with a gloved hand or a dry paper towel. Never use a wet paper towel and scrub it. That just lightly dust it off. Place all samples in a plastic lined cloth bag. And as I said many times, but you can use a plastic bag if it's of good thickness. Identify each sample bag with the study number and sample ID and collection date. This is important when you deliver it to the lab. If you don't have it sampled, if you don't have it identified as treatment 2 or, you know, as a treated sample, and you hand it to the lab and they think it's a control, that can throw the results all, you know, wacky. So please make sure it's labeled correctly when you deliver it to the lab. It's good to have a chest ice chest or a cooler in the field with you to cool down the samples as you collect them. And you can drive them to the lab in that chest cooler. When you do that and you only have one cooler, it's a good thing to do by separating them. And if you only have one cooler, a lot of times people will have 2 coolers, one for the treated and one for the untreated samples. But if you only have one cooler, put the control sample in like a garbage bag. And so it's physically separated from the treated sample. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is one of the sample pages. I just wanted to give you a general idea of, you know, the information that we'll be looking for, and we'll be asking like what sample date, what's the decline sampling interval, what was the crop stage, like what did the fruit look like, was it green or was it marketable? Any description there of what you think the fruit looked like, that would be perfect for us. And then you just go down and circle all the things that are listed here, and they're pretty much similar to what is in the protocol. We're seeing if they were collected under the same procedures as the protocol, were they collected by a separate pass through the entire plot. So you're just confirming what we have asked you to do in the protocol. Were the plot ends harvested? Did you change your gloves in between samples, etc.? If you are not driving the samples to the lab, we want them in a freezer as soon as possible if they're being shipped. And if you have a freezer on your field facility, we expect you to do that as soon as possible. Here we're asking for you to describe the procedures that you used in collecting the samples, and they can, you know, correspond to what the protocol had asked. Some of you, like the cabbage study, will also be doing some kind of modification to the sample, especially if the cabbage is very big. We ask you to quarter it, and there's instructions in the protocol on how to do that. You'll also add some information there that the cabbage was quartered and the opposite quarters were retained and sent, you know, for the sample. We'll ask you to describe how you transported, what the samples were in and how they were transported from the field to either the freezer or to the laboratory. And this next slide is just information on the crop that was collected and the time that it was collected and when it was placed in a freezer. If it was placed in a freezer, you may be just taking it to the lab. So if you are, and it's not being placed in the freezer, you can just put a line through these 2 columns and say, delivered to the lab. No freezer necessary. And now we're on to sample shipment and delivery. As I stated before, you have 12 hours to get your samples that you harvested in the field and get them to the laboratory or place them in a freezer. Keeping the untreated samples separated from the treated, like I said, when transporting or shipping. And as I said, if you only have one cooler, you wrap that untreated sample in a garbage bag or some other plastic bag to separate it from the treated bag. Let's see. So if samples are not being delivered to the laboratory within 12 hours, take the samples out of the cooler and place them in the field freezer if there's one on site. It's very important to get those samples frozen as soon as possible to keep the integrity of the samples. We don't want them thawed or, you know, not in good condition for the laboratory. If you have pre-shipment or pre-analysis storage, you are to keep those samples frozen at a temperature around less than -18 degrees Celsius. We allow for like a normal variation from, you know, freezer cycling or sample movement. So if there's a spike in a temperature that you're taking, when you keep samples in a freezer, you have to keep a freezer log. And so if we see a spike, we know that it's probably opening up the freezer to take some samples out or put samples in. So the freezer logs, as I said, you'll keep a freezer log if you are using a freezer to store your samples. And just, you have to document when samples come in and when samples are removed, and the time and the date. And all on-site storage temperatures will be monitored and documented every day until the samples are shipped. And that can be with a min-max thermometer. If you have a data logger, that's great, but a min-max is perfectly fine. So when samples are shipped by air or vehicle to the analytical laboratory, as I said, you have to maintain the integrity of the sample by keeping them either in dry ice. Now, I mean more like the shipping boxes, and you're, you know, having FedEx or some kind of air carrier take the samples to the lab. And if you are using that type of shipping procedure, you need dry ice at a ratio of 3 to 1 per the sample weight of the sample to dry ice. Dry ice is 3 and sample weight is 1. So the more ice is better. We will, in the field data notebook, there's a residue sample shipping form. And one thing we like to do is have a proper chain of custody of the samples. We want to know when they left the field and when they got to the laboratory. So there will be a shipping form that you'll fill out as you deliver the samples to the laboratory. And here's the best part. Once the samples arrive cooled or frozen and safely to the lab, your job is done. So that's pretty much it. I will actually go into a little more detail when I'm doing the individual training. I'll go over how to sample your crop according to the protocol. Each crop is different. So I will, we'll go over those points, and I'm hoping by the time I'm done all of my training that, these trials will go, or these studies will go very well. So I want to ask, what can you do to help get your study started? Please review the protocol and provide the information that I've requested, or provide feedback. I'd really like to hear if you have a better way of doing something, and I can, like I said, this protocol is not set in stone right now. It's still in a draft form, so please give me your comments. Send an email to me with the following information. We still need that label information for the test substance that you will be using in your study. let me know what stage your crop is in the next week or two, because a lot of you are going to be ready from what you had told me in our introductory meeting when we met. And once I get this information, I can help you work on your timing and the date for your study. And please, whatever supply, I did go through your list, and I will go through that before we meet for the individual training, because I'd like to have your supplies all in place before I meet with you for that individual training. So I will be going through each of your lists and seeing how we can help you get those supplies that you don't have. And I think that is the end. Any questions? Thank you very much for your time. And I actually enjoyed this, so I hope you did too.
Thank you so much, Grace. Yes, really, I really enjoyed the presentation. I'm sure the participants might have also, with all the live slides and animations and videos. It was really interesting for an outsider and not in this field like me. So I would like to invite the questions for Grace on sampling, and yeah, we are getting a lot of thumbs up and claps for the presentation, Grace, from in the reactions.
I've been asked to show my face, so it's a tired face. So I will, now that I'm done, there I am. Hello.
So please, do you have any questions, participants?
I have one question.
Dr. Mohammed,
I'm Shahid from Marti, Malaysia. Okay, after we mix the pesticide and water in our knapsack sprayer or our mist blower, do we need to empty after that? We agitate. Do we need to empty a bit before we apply the pesticide?
Oh, I've seen that done. Oh, do you mean add the pesticide to the tank?
Yeah.
Do you need to?
Yeah, after we add the pesticides and water, okay. Flow into the system of the our knapsack sprayer or our mist blower. So normally in the first line will be water. So when we put our test substance and then we top up with water, so the front line is still filled up with water. So normally what we do is we first we empty a bit. We just open the valve, maybe just very short. And then only we proceed with spray. Do we need to do that?
Oh, yeah, I think you mean like away from the test plot, just to prime it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can do that. I would prime it outside the plot though. Yes.
Okay,
definitely,
thank you.
That's fine. Sure. Oh yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. So I think we have a question from.
Good morning, Stacey. Yes.
Please, yeah. Please
my name is Putason Sibunawong. This is a Lao team. Yes, I have some questions for Dr. Grace. First, I would like to thank for your presentations. I still have questions about the data collection. Yes,
okay.
Yes, because in your PowerPoint presentation, you have mentioned that we are going to sampling the collection by collectors after spraying, right? For 1 hour. This is a meaning in terms of MRL, right? But how about before application of the pesticide? Do we need to collect also, or we just collect after 1 hours of spraying? And the second question, I have observed that in our project, we will focus on only the MRL. How about the data on plant health, for example, the pest occurrence in the field test, or plant health in terms of the plant growth or auto measurement? We no need to record, or yeah.
I didn't catch that last part. You don't need to. Oh, I'm sorry. Sasi, I
Ms.
can't hear. I'm sorry.
Patterson, could you please repeat your last part of the question?
Oh yeah, because the network is not so good, right? No, I mean, in our project, we no need to record or collect author plant health. For example, pest occurrence. Yes, just only the MRL, right?
Don't we need to record other pests in the plant? Is that your question? Record or collect other pests in the plant? Is that right, Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Okay. Grace, I think over to you.
I'm still not following. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think the question was, do we need to record or collect other pests in the field?
Yeah, yes, right, Sassy, yes. So no
collect,
need, right?
Record and what? I'm sorry.
Collect.
The what?
Collect
record or
insect
collect.
pest, for example, or pest.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can I supplement something what he said actually? Actually, he want to know that when we are working with this study, mostly it depends on the residue decline study, and we will compare the MRL to fix the pre-harvest interval. And at that time, is it mandatory to see the pest status? I think
That's
it
right.
is not necessary to see the pest status in this study. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, anyway, for our team, because I'm going to work for the field research, because I'm invited by Sulinya to join the project. I would like to propose Dr. Grace to organize the individual training for us, because we focus on the sweet basil, right? Yes. So it's possible to to make us more understand, because this is my first time to join the workshop. So
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I can definitely work with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patterson, for your great involvement, and we also thank our Bangladesh team for providing, responding to the question and helping us. And do we have any more questions? So yeah, Ms. Patterson, please be notice that we will be having individual training with all the countries, exclusively on the crop that you're working. Once we have this overall group training completed, we will have individual group training with you.
Yes, that is correct. And it will be study specific. Yes, sure. It will be study specific.
Do we have any more questions from the participants to Dr. Grace? I don't see any more questions coming up. So I would also take this opportunity to request the participants to fill in the feedback form. I'm adding the link in the chat box. I request you all to please open the link and provide your feedback on the training. While we also we'll wait for a few more minutes to invite questions. In the meantime, please do fill in the feedback forms. This will also help us to frame your the training for the individual country needs. We will know that we are on right track with the training. Please, you can click on the link. Grace, yes, please.
There is one question from Cambodia. For shipping the sample from field to lab is less than 1 hour. Do we need to place them with dry ice or just in a cool box? And it's fine just with the cool box for that short of time. I just wanted to address that.
Thank you, Grace.
Yes.
Sorry to miss that
And
question.
in the residue decline study, we will not be recording or collecting other pests. That will be done with Kevin and his phase 2. We cannot do any kind of pest collection until we find out what pesticide we're going to be using in that phase 2. And phase 2, once we get the residues, we'll start. And Kevin and I will work on that part of the study together. I hope I
Thank you,
answered that
Grace.
question. You're welcome.
Thank you for the clarifications. So do we have any more questions to Dr. Grace? This would be the last call for the participants to ask questions, or else we will be moving ahead with our next closing remarks.
Sasi, can you, everybody's asking for me to share the PowerPoint. Can you direct them to where you're going to post it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will make sure to send it through their email. Yeah, so I do have the emails of all the study teams. So I will send it to you all after the training once we receive the presentation. And if there are any new participants who are not in the study teams, you can please send me an email and I will put my email in the chat box. Please make sure to provide your feedback in the form that we have added in the chat box. You can see the link. I think we do not have any more questions from the participants. So Grace, if you agree, we can move ahead and close the training for today.
Sure. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Grace. So I would like to request Jason to provide feedback before we go on to Dr. Ravi.
Yeah, thank you, Sasi. Yeah, so I thank you, Grace. That was very excellent. It's always good for me to even watch these. I get a good refresher. And as Dr. Grace had mentioned, we're going to follow up with each country shortly, and we'll have a more tailored individual session with each of you that's going to be very specific to your crop and your pet test substances and situation. So we'll be following up shortly on that. Again, if you have any more questions, something that you are forgetting to ask now, maybe you remember tomorrow, or maybe you're just a little bit shy and you don't want to ask in front of the big group, that's okay. Grace and myself and Sasi and Ravi, we can all take your emails and questions anytime. So please just let us know if you have anything that you need some clarification on or you're wondering about and you just were afraid to ask in front of the whole group. So no problem. We're here to support you. And that is all that I have. Sasi, I'll pass it back to you, but thank you guys very much. I really appreciate all the work that's been put into this, Grace. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. I would like to request Dr. Ravi to please proceed with closing remarks.
Thank you, Sasi. It has been a wonderful presentation, friends, all of you have seen from Dr. Grace Leonard. She was presenting in a very simple and a very lucid style all the details on the field data notebook, on the field plans, field supplies, and mixing and application of text solutions, and also on sample collections and shipping. And I was happy to see a lot of interaction, some good interaction. And as Jason just mentioned, it will be good to keep interacting for any doubts of any participant which is left out. You are free to write mails to, especially to Grace, but to all of us so that we get back to you on your technical queries. And as Sasi mentioned, your feedbacks are very, very important for us. So thank you, Grace. Thanks a lot for doing this good work. And thank you, Jason, for your leadership on that. We sincerely appreciate being our good technical partners. At the same time, I would like to thank all the participants for really making it, and for their engagement and involvement and for their interaction. And as mentioned by Jason, Sasi and all, we are going to have a country-specific, more tailored trainings. So that will help you to make the story complete with your specific crops, specific pesticides, and your specific questions on field and lab issues. I would like to now sincerely thank all the participants for their engagement, and especially thank Jason, Dr. Jason Sandel of AgriLine Global for his dynamic leadership and cruising through in the difficult time with us to really make sure that it happens, and it happens so well. At the same time, I would like to record my sincere thanks to the USDA team who are here. I must say here, we have one, this component of the STDF project in USDA project also, which is specific to Bangladesh, and how USDA team, if I can name them, Jesse, Alexis, Erie, and others, how they were engaged to make sure that STDF and USDA mandates match, and jointly we put up a good show. So this was a wonderful contribution from USDA, being engaged, involved at a very minute level on day-to-day issues of involvement and of organization. So USDA has played a very important role for APARI and for AgriLine Global, and my special thanks to the USDA team. And on behalf of STDF also, I would like to convey my thanks to all the participants, to USDA and to AgriLine Global. And I must say before I close my closing remarks, this is the only project which I know with my limited knowledge, which has a global network. And the global network is now managed by Dr. Jason Sandel. So you have a lot of opportunities in this project on various lessons to be learned across the region. It is not only Asia. And today we have Ms. Karin from STDF project from South Africa who joined us as an observer, and we may be joining their trainings also. So what I mean to say, with Latin America, Africa, and Asia all working on the same project, which is going to be full. But also at an inter-regional level in the coming times. And that we will see how we can have one complete global network established where this project is, I would say, just a humble beginning. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to my colleague Sasi, always prepared to moderate any program, and this one she did very well. She knows when to mute whom and when to unmute, and I know she muted Grace also at one stage, but that can happen. But yes, she has played a very big role today in really making sure that the presentations by Grace really goes out smoothly. With this, I would like to thank one and all for your active engagement, and we'll be looking forward for more such kind of trainings and more engagement with you all. And I thank all my APARI colleagues who have played their respective roles in making sure that we reach to this stage. Thank you one and all. And if Sasi can ask a smiling face of everyone with their videos on to capture you guys on our memories, that would be great. And after the photo, I see Grace smiling like anything. That's wonderful. After the photo session, I will request Jesse from USDA or Alexis, whoever is available, to make their own few comments if they feel like. Jesse, we'll get back to you after the photo session. Let us get people smiling first.
Dr. Ravi, I think we do not have Jesse or Alexis with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Iri also not there, it's fine. So thank you. On behalf of USDA, I can only say USDA is more than happy to see that finally it has taken off with so much of pains behind the scene we all had with Ecoline Global and with you all. It was like we never gave up was the mission for all of us. And finally now it has started happening. Thank you one and all. And we go for the photo session. Sasi.
Yes. So please, we request everyone to turn on your camera. Dr. Mohammed, Dr. Fetos. Yeah. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Cheese. My colleague, Ms. Taratap, is also assisting me with taking the picture. So please bear with us for a few more seconds and we will make sure to capture everyone on the screen. Thank you so much. And it was really great. And I'm so happy to get started with the project activities again. We thank all the national study team leads from Bangladesh, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, and Thailand to really bring all your members into the training today. Thank you all. And we will meet you all again in individual country field trainings. Thank you so much. And please do fill the feedback form. Thank you all. Bye.
Okay, thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Thank you everyone, and especially